Uncle Dan.
What?
I think I think I'm bored of you people, and I'd like to meet some new friends.
Well, A, hurtful, and B, I understand, and let's see if we can find somebody. Uncle Mark, do you have anybody fun that you could introduce us to?
Do you guys want to make a new friend?
Sure.
Always.
Well, okay. Well, let's see. Let me just pull one out of the old brain box here. Here's a friend. I'm going to introduce you to somebody very special today.
Hooray.
Well, he was very special until he wasn't special at all.
Oh no.
So this is a fun story. So today, co-uncles, I want to talk about the folly of pursuing greatness at all costs, of reaching perhaps too far, flying Icarus-like too close to the sun, and what it is to have nearly reached the heavens only to fall. Oh, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. So today, dear uncles, I want to talk about Shabadi's V. Now,
I'm pretty sure that's not a thing.
Now
that you just said.
You and our listeners are wondering why. Why, Uncle Mark, are we talking about the meteoric rise of Adolfo Gutierrez Quinones, a.k.a. Shabadu, founder of the original Lockers and the inventor of breakdancing's iconic locking style and the breakdancing superstar of 1984's Breakin' and Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo?
Yes, I have boogalooed right along with him. Okay, that guy.
No, friends, I'm not talking about the celebrity choreographer of Madonna's 1987 Who's That Girl tour.
Damn it.
Today I'm talking about one of history's niftiest near-miss messiahs, the pride of Ottoman Smyrna, Shabadi's V.
I want to go back to the breakdancer.
Yeah, me too. So that's right, guys. He may not have been one of the fathers of hip-hop dance, but Shabadi was no stranger to the quest for fame and fortune. Shabadi was born in Smyrna, as I mentioned, then part of the Ottoman Empire, in the wonderful year of 1626.
Good year.
On a Jewish holiday called Tish B'Av, which was a day of mourning and fasting and remembrance of a baker's dozen of the major calamities that have befallen the Jewish people. So
Sure.
The sacking of the temple, and then the sacking of the temple, and then the time the temple got sacked.
All of those.
All those and more. And this quirk of his birth on that day will turn out to be just a little bit significant in this story. Also significant, his name Shabadi means Saturn, and in Jewish tradition, Saturn, the king of the planets, was significant to the coming of the Messiah.
No.
So Shabadi's father,
Of course. I mean, that's obvious.
we all know this is. I mean, I hate to cover ground everybody's so familiar with,
Right.
But let's just do it. So Shabadi's father, Mordecai, sold chickens. and eventually became the local agent of an English trading company, and his exposure to some prevailing English millenarian ideas may also have played a part in this bizarre tale. So Mordecai sent young Shabadi to yeshiva to study the Talmud. Nailed all of that, didn't I?
Yes.
That Hebrew. But he soon became more interested in the Jewish mysticism of the Kabbalah, and the talk of miracles and wonders that its practitioners claim to be able to achieve.
Yeah, it's more fancy.
I think Kabbalah is more fun.
It is. It's
the substitute teacher of Jewish texts.
It's also the second tie into Madonna in this bit.
right.
It won't be the last. Now, the mid-17th century was like so many periods, not a very good time for the Jews. So most terribly in 1648, some shitbag named Bogdan Chimlicki led a bunch of Cossacks that murdered 100,000 Jews in the Ukraine,
God damn.
which was like a third or something, or a quarter of European Jewry. So persecution was common elsewhere as well, and one can hardly blame the Jews of Europe and the Levant for feeling desperate for a little divine intervention.
Sure, we all want that.
So recall that Shabadi's dad, Mordecai, was in contact with English millenarians when he wasn't selling chickens, and they were getting all ginned up about the upcoming year of 1666 and the end times it heralded, and part of that was the Jews returning to Israel. Add to that an interpretation in the Zohar, which is a part of the Kabbalah, that said in 1648 that would be the year of Israel's redemption and the appearance of their long-awaited Messiah. Taken all together, what was the 22-year-old lad born on a holy day, named after the king of planets, to do but answer history's call and proclaim that he, Shabadi, son of Mordecai, the chicken guy, was the Messiah that everyone had been yearning for all these years. So, in his hometown of Smyrna, He declared himself the Messiah. It didn't really set the world on fire, but it did get him noticed by local rabbis who found his outrageous claim and his provocative blasphemies, such as saying the Tetragrammaton, the forbidden sacred name of God, which we'll just go ahead and say here is Yahweh, just a bit too much. He actually was purposefully performing these blasphemies to show that he had come to change the rules, essentially, right? So Shabadi bounced around all over the place for some time, Constantinople, Jerusalem, Cairo, selling his messianic wares wherever he went, and essentially getting excommunicated and banished by the Jewish elders at every stop. Not even his claims of being able to fly, saying it was too holy an act to share with the rabble, gained him much traction. Yes, he claimed he could fly. So, not much traction, but some.
The thing about a claim that you can fly is that people will ask you. That's one of the few claims where it's like, hey, that's provable. Go.
Well, I would, but we're inside.
Right.
I'm
Right.
sorry.
Oh, it's Thursday. That's not going to work. That is not a unique claim to our friend Shabadi here.
No.
The Ding Dong from the Aum Shinrikyo cult claimed he could fly. The guy from Falun Gong said he could levitate, and that he'd known too many people that knew how to
I
levitate.
remember that, yeah.
So
it's just one of those things where it's like you back yourself in, you paint yourself into a rough corner when you claim you can fly. That's
exactly
all I'm
right. So he didn't get a lot of traction from that, but he got some. So even though the authorities were having none of it, his traveling show lit a small fire among the workaday Jews of the time, and the whispers of his divinity began to grow to at least kind of an indoor voice. So his minor fame was boosted tremendously by his chance meeting with a man of similarly humble self-regard, a guy who called himself simply Nathan the Prophet, who, by the way, would later declare himself the reincarnation of the prophet Elijah when this shit got out of hand. So
nice.
Very
I like
humble
it.
fellows.
But a good hype man.
Great. He was a very good hype man. He was also a man of great learning and an ascetic of the Kabbalah of the highest order. So Nathan confirmed that Shabadi was indeed the long-awaited Messiah and reignited Shabadi's passion for seeing this crazy thing through to the end, no matter what. So Nathan went on to predict that Shabadi would marry Rebekah, the daughter of the resurrected Moses. He would gather the scattered tribes of Israel, and he would seize the crown from the Ottoman Sultan's head. Now, put a pin in that.
Oh,
we're going to come back to that.
Yeah, that's a rough one. If he had stopped right before that one, he probably would have been in okay.
Some of history's great moments you don't realize are happening as they happen, right? So it mattered not that Shabadi was already married to Sarah, quite a colorful character in her own right. She was a Jewish girl orphaned in a massacre in Poland, then raised to be a nun in a convent for several years until her escape to an Italian port city where she worked as a sex worker for years and years before having visions she was to marry the Messiah. Shabadi somehow heard about this and had her brought to Cairo and sure enough married her. Quirky as that seems, it actually helped foster the notion of his messiahship.
Hell yeah.
Because it was believed to reflect the story of the prophet Hosea in the Bible, who was called by God to, quote, take a wife of whoredom, unquote. I know, this story has everything. So by this point in late 1665, the Shabadi shit was getting seriously out of control.
Yeah.
So by now, rather than being banished wherever he went, he was greeted like a messiah. His followers had become so numerous and so vocal that the rabbi elders that once banished him were afraid to raise any objections at all, lest they be torn apart by the mob. So word of the Messiah traveled through the increasingly connected world to the point where there was hardly a corner of Europe, Asia Minor, North Africa that had not heard of the miraculous tale of Shabadi and his powers. In some cities, Jews pulled the roofs off their own houses in preparation for being translated through the sky directly to Israel at any minute.
Not trusting that their Lord and magic God could actually like get them through a roof.
I was going to pull you up to heaven, but the thatch was in the way.
Right. You know what? You got to minimize risks.
Or the other thing is that he might not be paying attention and just bonk you on the head.
And your special day is ruined. So most synagogues hung his sacred initials on the walls, and his portrait accompanied King David's in prayer books.
Wow.
And a standardized prayer was introduced to be prayed to him multiple times a week rather than just once on the Sabbath, which was, "Bless our Lord and King, the righteous Shabadi Zvi, the Messiah of the God of Jacob." So, in 1666, Shabadai made his way to Constantinople in order to fulfill the prophecy of removing the crown from the Sultan's head.
Oh, God.
Whereupon he immediately became a guest of the Sultan in prison,
Yeah.
where, oddly enough, he was well treated. He was allowed to live with his wife and have all the visitors he wanted.
Interesting.
And he had, at this point, he had like shit tons of money.
Yeah.
Like huge backers, like the biggest names, the heaviest hitters in Jewish Europe of the time were all behind this guy.
You
right?
got to wonder if there was like a moment where he's talking to the Sultan and he just goes, "Look, I'm not going to try and dethrone you. I know that you've got soldiers outside every door here. Can I take your crown off your head?
Just for a minute.
Can I just hold it in my hands, maybe get my picture took with it, and then put it back on your head?
Ta-da!
Then it's a win-win for everybody."
Well, as we'll see, Shabadai did not know that the pair of twos he was playing with was not going to beat the hand that the Sultan was holding.
Royal flush.
So it was here in this prison where he lived kind of lavishly that he decided to slaughter a Passover lamb himself and eat it with its fat, which we know is a major violation of the Jewish law. And he began to declare that certain Jewish holidays of fast and mourning would now, including his own birthday, would now be feast days and celebration, further alienating whatever small part of the Jewish world wasn't buying his little act. Pardon me. By now, he had countless followers. His power as a religious figure was nearly absolute. The year of the millennium was at hand. All the planets, including his namesake Jupiter, had aligned to deliver this great man to this great moment. Hallelujah! Now, remember when I said to put a pin in Nathan the prophet saying Shabadai was going to take the Sultan's crown?
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't know a lot of sultans. The ones I do know are pretty tight with their crowns. My sultan friends would not take overly kindly to some so-and-so from Smyrna thinking he was going to come snatch it. And so it was that God's anointed messenger to bring about the end and the new beginning was summoned in all his majesty before the vizier of the Sultan's right-hand man.
Yeah.
There he stood, our Shabadai, beloved by his people, mouthpiece for God himself and a god in his own right. And it was in this crackling, portentous silence the vizier spoke. Shabadai, messenger of the Almighty, instrument of cosmic realignment, was given three choices. First, he may prove his divinity by a test via archery. meaning he would be tied to a post and archers would fire at it.
Oh, shit. Nice.
If they missed, he must be divine.
See, I had this, I when you said that, I had a very...
he was going to fire something?
Yeah, I had a Robin Hood sort of scenario in my head.
I figured he'd be on the business end of the arrow.
Remember that the woman who does the Ramtha channeling?
Yeah.
Part of her practice is her people do blindfolded archery.
Really?
It's amazing that there's anyone left. So if they missed him, he would be divine. If they hit him, well, it's a fair cop.
Yeah.
So choice the second. He could just straight up be impaled on a pointed stick right there, right now. And third, he could simply convert to Islam, denounce all of his messianic nonsense, and walk out the door a free man with a fine house, a pension, and a second wife to boot. Now, in the pregnant, static-filled air of one of history's great moments, Shabadai puffed up his chest, stuck out his chin, looked the vizier squarely in the eye, and proclaimed, "Yeah, number three, let's do that
Yeah,
one."
I'm a Muslim now. That is awesome.
There is no God but Allah.
And so it was the very next day that the newly christened Aziz Mehmed Effendi stood before the slyly smiling Sultan and removed his Jewish attire forever and donned a Turkish turban. He sent out a simple message to his madly devoted followers around the world, saying simply, "God has made me an Ishmaelite. He has commanded, and it was done." And with that, the feverish year of 1666 ended not with a bang, but with a whimper. And the formerly anointed Messiah spent the rest of his life puttering around the house as a low-level Ottoman nobleman. And so oddly enough, some of his followers converted with him. I guess thinking it was part of some grand scheme.
Right, yeah.
Like, oh, we're going to pretend. And and some of them maintained into the 20th century.
No kidding.
Oddly, it's a very, very small number maintained. But mostly it just sputtered. I think they also thought that, again, it was a trick rather than him just choosing a pension over a hasty impaling. But it really just sputtered out. So
there's nothing in the Bible that says that the Messiah won't convert to Islam.
I think those footnotes have been lost to history. So as a final note, I tried to find a poignant quote from Shabadi in Breakin', the movie, to end with, but there isn't one better than "Girls are whack." And I watched the whole movie, which I think makes me the Messiah now, since I suffered so much for my people. But
I own that movie.
it's actually, I love that movie.
Do you own it on cassette tape or?
No, I once saw it in
Laserdisc.
I saw it in a discount DVD bin, and was like, yoink.
I watched it yesterday trying to find a quote to put
love
in,
that movie.
and there wasn't one. But it's an awesome movie.
It's horrifically bad
and wonderful.
The acting is awful. It's so delightful though, and the dancing is interesting.
Yeah.
Ice-T makes an appearance.
Yeah.
And
uncredited Jean-Claude Van Damme is in the crowd.
Oh, is he?
Clearly, as clear as a bell.
Oh,
you can
I
see him.
love it.
It's like the '80s threw up onto a DVD. It's amazing.
Right. They forgot to hire any actors, but they had
Good breakdancers.
Yeah. Yeah, it was back when people who danced like that were scary to white folk.
That's totally
delightful.
scary.
Anyway, I think we've gone on a tangent.
We have indeed.
So Allahu Akbar, and
inshallah, everyone.
let's move on.